January, KCI and the partnership group will conduct an in-depth feasibility study with results available in spring 2015. The partnership group will assess assets with dollars generated going primarily for costs of providing services and developing programs or operations. KCI will lead the philanthropic and capital campaign. This is a two-tier approach. By having KCI lead the bricks and mortar campaign, complemented by the long-term operations campaign of the partnership group, we feel we are truly honoring our past and as importantly, planning for our future. We realize by taking this feasibility approach to fundraising that we will not reach our April targets as set by the Township of North Huron for Memorial Hall. But we also know that by taking this prudent step now, it will enable us to achieve the full target amount for all 3 phases of this initiative. We are working diligently to develop our programs for the Canadian Centre for Rural Creativity. This part of the project leverages significant interest from potential investors, partners, and sponsors. There is a growing momentum and enthusiasm to this approach that is palpable, and our commitment to the project, as all 3 phases, remains even more steadfast. Courses will be presented in 2015 as follows. Photography with Sheridan College professor Heather Morton. Some of you may know Heather. She's from the Belgrade area. She's moved away a few years ago. Photojournalism with local journalist Denny Scott. Documentary filmmaking with the founders of Co-Pop Media, Randall Lobb and Mark Hussey, along with an independent filmmaker, Adam Scipione, and fashion arts with Jennifer Trimster Johnson, a costume designer and fashion arts educator. More information will be available on all these programs early next year. That's my presentation for tonight. Does anybody have any questions about those?
Trevor? So sorry, it's more maybe a question just from a point of the part where I was said they wouldn't meet a deadline set by the township. What was that deadline for? I don't remember that deadline, so I just...
There was an April deadline for the first phase of the money to be in the bank for the renovation of Memorial Hall.
From 1419.
That's right. And there is a contribution from North Huron that's included in that amount.
The program, of course, is controlled by the necessity of having everything ready for the theater season, and we can't do construction through that whole period. So that's one of the reasons why the April date is so critical. So when I first heard about this, I felt disappointed in that we're not going to start until a year later, but the rationale for it is very, very sound, I think, and rather than scrambling, trying to raise a few dollars to get close to where we might end up, the advice of the fundraising groups is to hold off and really prepare well for the next opportunity for development.
We've worked very hard with the renovation committee and Pat to come up with a really great design, and we don't want to have to cut any corners on that. And so it's still a bit of a floating amount, and it will remain so, I guess, until we can actually put out the contract tender call. But we're very excited by that part, which is the North Huron's asset.
Trevor, sorry, just a follow-up. So because of that, the dates that were advised that before when we made the motion, or when previous councils made those motions, those dates are not now, they've been delayed 1 year. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes and no. So the start date, the shovel-in, the groundbreaking ceremony, we had hoped to be mid-September after the festival had completed their season in 2015. With not meeting this deadline, we need to move forward an entire year. As Brock alluded, the festival season is a priority in Blythe, and we cannot interrupt that. So we're looking at shovel-in September 2016. If all of the fundraising ducks line up as it should with these 2 companies on board. The renovation committee came to council and discussed a 3-phase approach. The first phase being the schematic design, which we completed, and we presented that to council. We were then given permission to move to phase 2, which was the detailed design and tender documents. And 1419 provided the committee and the Township of North Huron the funds to pay for the architect and all of the sub-consultants required to get that job done. So we have that money, and we continue to work forward and move that forward with the architects and the consultants. And after speaking with Karen, I did speak with our lead consultant, Alan Avis Architects. And so I think the go-forward plan would be that the design documents would be sort of in a 95% ready-to-go state. And then we will just park it on a shelf. And then when we are ready with phase 3, which is the construction phase, which required council to hear that the funds were ready and the design is ready and the tender documents are ready and we're ready to move this project forward. So we'll be ready to just dust that off with a very strategic approach with our consultants to finish the last 5 to 10%. We would like to hear from 1419 and these consultants on some of the finishing pieces, how sponsors or donors will be recognized, and some of the little fine print items. But this will not change how the walls are going to be moved or how the seats are going to change in the theater, which is what the renovation committee is working towards now. So we still see us coming in the new year to council with sort of our phase 2 90% completed report. Does that answer sort of all of the?
Makes all sense now.
Brock.
When I was talking to Karen and Peter before, I did some daydreaming, and I thought, maybe an angel will show up with bags of money. They're just waiting to find a place to put it. In which that case, I would solve the whole thing and we'd get shovel ready a year earlier. And this was in the context of my acting as the devil's advocate. So it shows how versatile I am to deal with angels and devils. So anyway, if that angel shows up, we might still have a different scenario.
But I'm very thankful for the work that 1419 committee is doing. They're working, putting things logically in order to have a very successful project and to do a fantastic job. So I'm looking forward to progress.
Thank you. So on behalf of the board and staff of Block 1419A, it's been a pleasure working with the Township of North Huron, staff, and the many stakeholders in the community. And I wish you each a happy and healthy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, for the Reeves report, I'm going to read at least part of a bit of a press release. And it's Hurontel receives international recognition with Smart Rural Community Award. Hurontel is one of 13 rural communication firms in North America to be honored with the Smart Rural Community Showcase Award by NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association. NTCA cited Hurontel's advanced communication services and collaboration with local leaders in the communities it serves as some of the keys to its success. Hurontel is the only company outside of the United States to receive the award. The other 12 award recipients operate in Alaska, Iowa, Kentucky, Minnesota, Kansas, Montana, South Carolina, Tennessee, Vermont, and Wisconsin. At a gathering of more than 1,000 leaders of rural telecommunications providers hosted by the NTCA, Hurontel was honored with the award for deploying advanced technology and leveraging those technologies to enable innovation in the areas of economic development and commerce, education, enhanced health care, government services, security, and energy use. Hurontel's efforts were judged against those of dozens of other companies by a panel of experts from the fields of telecommunications, software and technology services, education, healthcare, and economic development. Smart Rural Community Showcase Award recipients are prime examples of the power of broadband connection and a steadfast commitment to growth and prosperity, said NTCA Chief Executive Officer Shirley Bloomfield. The NTCA Smart Rural Community Initiative recognizes and celebrates the efforts of rural telecommunications providers and their communities to deliver technologies that make rural communities vibrant places in which to live and do business. The goal of the initiative is to foster the development of smart communities by recognizing trailblazers and providing resources to assist broadband providers, connected industries. We are pleased and excited to accept this award, said Glenn Grube, Hurontel General Manager, who received the award on behalf of Hurontel. We have worked hard with our local leaders to ensure that our subscribers have access to advanced communications and many benefits those services enable. We look forward to building on our success for many years to come. Hurontel provides local telecommunications services to over 8,000 homes and businesses in Huron and Bruce counties. Hurontel provides various telecommunications services, including cellular, digital, TV, telephone, and broadband internet. And I think this is quite a feather to be the only company in Canada recognized with this award as yet. And that I think we're pretty lucky to have them as part of our North Huron, AC, Ashfield, Colborne, Wallinosh, and Godrich for the Huron County portion, and Huron and Kinloss Townships for the Bruce County portion. But there's further about the Rural Broadband Association that they're part of, but I think I've read the significant part, and I'm pretty proud to say Glenn's a good friend and has been for a number of years, so that it's really nice to have them working in our community and helping with our economic development by them being here. Also, that there's another press release, and that's from the Alice Munro Labor Marketing Group, that the festival time is being changed to June, and the name is being changed to the Alice Munro Festival of the Short Story. Do you want to add anything, Yolanda? But I think with all the work that is being done on this and the people that are being brought in as festival co-directors, I think it's a big step forward, and basically I feel very proud to be from North Huron, and North Huron having a good part of it along with a number of our neighbors. Okay. For my county council report, we had an inaugural session on the 10th of December with 3 running for warden, with Paul Gowing being the eventual winner. That we have had first committee of the whole meeting this morning, going over a number of the orientation for new county councilors and refreshing the ones that have been there for a while. And that's about it for the county so far. And moving to 6.3, financial and treasury bills and accounts. Is there any questions on them? Trevor?
I just more of a question, really, I guess maybe for you to Donna. I don't quite comprehend property tax refunds. Can you clarify to me why, like, I
The
just,
overpayments on the first
yeah, like,
page?
do they get reassessed or what is, how does that come about?
There's lots of ways, and all of these are a little bit different. Some of them were cases where they paid and the bank paid as well, so they had an overpayment.
Okay.
We often, just after a tax payment, have several cases where they have picked the wrong selection through computer and telephone banking, and so they've paid us twice
Okay.
or some of those types of things. So each one of these is a little bit different, but they're all overpayments of some sort. They're not refunds.
They're not reassessments, it's just they're
No.
overpaid.
Yes, there's been a problem with their paying twice.
Okay, I have a motion from Bodden and Seat that the council of the Township of North Huron approve the bills and accounts in the amount of $1,132,801.58 as of December 11th. Is there any discussion or questions on any of the items? All in favor then? Carried. Okay. Moving to 6.4, health and safeties for information. 6.4.2, CAO clerk, and that's on requests for nominations to fill vacancies. Barbara, do you want to speak on that, or?
This is further to the request from Councillor Bodden that you'd like to see North Huron represented on either the AMO board or the Roma board. There would be an election at, I think it would be at the Good Roads Commission, or is it at AMO?
I'm not sure on the AMO as yet, whether they will do something. I know that they're asking for names before the 16th of January to fill positions where people failed to get reelected. And that my understanding is for Roma, it is asking for people that are willing to run for a 4-year term and would be elected the end of February at the convention, Good Roads Convention. So,
I would be interested in standing for one of those positions. I hope somebody else will take the other one. I think maybe I would prefer, if council is agreeable to standing for the rural caucus of AMO.
in trying to get information on that this morning, my understanding is that the positions were elected until 2016, and it's zoned
2.
It's zone 2 that we are in. It is not vacant though.
Oh,
The vacancies are in 8 and 9.
The vacancies are,
They're Eastern Ontario. 8.
well, it's not our region. Our region for AMO is Huron, Perth, Grey Bruce, Wellington, and Waterloo. And that for the rural caucus on AMO, Chris White, warden of Wellington, is our representative as of now.
Yes, and I wouldn't have much hope of competing against him, but it seemed to me that the rural caucus was not specifically aimed at a particular zone.
Doesn't say that anywhere.
It doesn't say that. It's something that we can have staff check to clarify whether a person would have to be from that zone.
That's her.
That we will check. And that's AMO that you were interested.
Yes, but failing that, I would like to be considered for the Roma
Okay.
zone.
Well, when there's the election for the 4-year term, that will be coming up, and that it for Roma, that those nominations could go in.
It's difficult, I'm not aware of any experience that we've had. It's hard to know how to get started.
Okay, and
It's just that I feel that we need representation on a lot of rural issues in our kind of community that are not being heard at the moment. That's my concern.
well, that I have toyed with the idea as well as to, and that for AMO, I would probably be more interested in, because when I have attended AMO for the last 8 years, I guess, I have went as a county representative, so that, and having been a past member of Western Wardens, the county caucus would be probably where I would be more interested in. I'm not saying that I'm announcing a candidacy for it, but I am strongly thinking of it. Bill?
I read through what had come. Actually, I've read through it twice, and I'm a little confused. But I understand where the zones, because I started looking where we're gonna nominate somebody for the zone, except there is no vacancy in zone 2. And there were actually vacancies were all Eastern Ontario. So I'd like a little clarification. I mean,
I think zone 3 may be open, but that is sort of southeast of us, and that would be filling the position that Doug Raycraft has. It would be filling out his term for AMO.
can we, is it possible to put this after we can get some more information?
That
to-
we will be digging into it a bit more as to what all is involved and talking to the people. Barb?
So would you like these two motions brought back to the January 5th council meeting with more information?
Yes.
Yes.
That's good.
So we'll leave those two to.
Okay. Moving to 6.4.3, Director of Corporate Services, Deputy Clerk. Do you want to read the motion, Kathy, or?
Sure, I think the report itself is self-explanatory, unless anybody has any questions on where we were proceeding with it.
Okay, I have a motion by Knott and Hallahan that the Council of the Township of North Huron agree to proceed with performing all duties for the plumbing and septic system management services in the Township of North Huron without the assistance of the County of Huron. And further, that the County of Huron Health Unit and the County CAO be contacted to advise of this change effective in 2015 with a date to be determined. Trevor?
My only question, I guess, is I obviously understand it's gonna be an increase to the revenue, but have we any idea how much? Are we talking 5,000, 25,000?
At this time, I wouldn't know. It would depend on how many plumbing inspections are that we undertake in a year. We just feel that it would be a more seamless operation between us and the water department if we could carry out our own inspections. So not only is there a bit of increased revenue, it just makes it more efficient for us that they kind of work hand in hand with each other.
Sorry, and so I guess my question, the only other thing is, I'm assuming at this point, we're not expecting Tim to be overburdened with this, but what happens if he is? Like how, like is there a backup plan? Is there, what's the,
If he was to be overburdened with this, we would have an unbelievable building boom going on, unlike anything that has ever been seen.
and I'm okay with that. From my perspective, I would rather know as opposed to not know. And then that's okay. If we don't know the answer, that's great. I'm fine with that. I'm just trying to understand what the fallback is if.
We don't think that it's going to,
Okay.
Tim only works 4 days a week now, and we don't feel that this is going to add to his.
That if you don't mind, Brock, I talked to Paul Gowing, that's the warden. I supported Morris Turnberry doing this a year ago. And that they have found it works excellent. Because when a person wants to build something, they come and talk to getting their building permit, they get their plumbing permits, they get it all from the same guy. That it's one-stop shopping rather than, well, you pick up the building permit, but sometimes the county guys go on holidays without telling anybody. After that, so it's maybe 3 weeks later before you can get a plumbing permit, and it's been a bad scene at times. I know that personally, I had a brother build a new house a couple of years ago, and they were the better part of 3 months getting through paperwork with the split through the county. And that I know that there may be kickback from the county trying not to let us have it, because if enough of the municipalities take it back on their own, the county doesn't have the volume to supply it. When we have a building inspector that is qualified to do the work, we can supply one-stop shopping and allow them to move forward in a business-like manner instead of a lot of roadblocks and red tape. Brock?
Well, with the belaboring thing, I think it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's a way of improving the service, as you're suggesting. I've heard many horror stories in various parts of the county. Business ready to open up, they've got their opening day all planned, and they're held up because there's a floor drain somewhere in the building that is 1/4 of an inch too high or too low, and they couldn't get anybody to come in on the weekend to check it out. And so, I mean, just nightmares that are caused by having the responsibility somewhere else with the county instead of local. So I think it's just a good business sense to do it.
Trevor?
I want to say, in no way is my question saying that this is a bad thing. This is good news for the municipality. My only concern is if we have, I'm great if we have the boom. I guess I always like to have the sense of what's the fallback if we get into a problem, because I don't like to hear 6 months later that we have a problem and now we don't know what to do with it. So
I hope we have the problem.
well, that's I think it's a good news story.
Thank you, and I'll make the comment. yes, Trevor, keep asking the questions, because if we can't answer them, we shouldn't be moving ahead, but yes. Jim, did you have something?
Yeah, when our son built the addition on his house, the plumbing department was a nightmare. I can tell you that, and that's all I'm going to say. Okay, I think this is a good idea.
Dawn?
The other thing is to, the building department worked closely with North Sternberry, so there could be like a reciprocal agreement kind of thing with their, since they do the plumbing.
Building inspector as well.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, I've read the motion. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. 6.44, Director of Public Works. There's the staff report. If there's any questions for Kelly on it, I think it's pretty well self-explanatory.
It's just a follow-up from last week.
And that I've got a calendar here and it says road tour in January, set date. Now, is there any time that is really good for most of council, if not all of council? It would be Fridays for you. Okay, we've decided it's a Friday. Sunday. If we were to go Fridays, Fridays are actually better for me than many of the other days as well, so.
There's 5 to choose from in January.
So are we going to draw it out of a hat as to which, or is there a preference on how soon we try getting it done? What is the first Saturday in January?
First Saturday?
Yeah,
It's the third.
Friday.
Friday is the second.
second?
Here's the first Friday.
That's too early?
Yeah.
Okay, the 9th would be the second Friday. Is there objections to the 9th?
What's the weather for that?
I can't go that
Well-
far ahead.
Well,
Only have 2
that's
weeks.
why I'm starting at the beginning of the month in case we have a snow day.
Might be a good day for a road tour.
What time?
Every time's convenient. Majority.
Whenever we can be ready to start.
Well, either the morning or the afternoon, so.
So half a day, is that's what's gonna take?
Well, I'm not 100% sure. Exactly.
Barbara,
I think it's important, especially for our 2 new counselors, to do this, but I think also it's important, are there projects that you want to take a look at? Are there roads you want to take a look at? So maybe if you could put something together and email me, and then, Kelly and I can sit down and put an agenda together, so. And it doesn't just have to be roads, just because it's called a road tour. If there's a facility that you want to look at, we'll be able to put it in on the tour as well.
I think facilities in all 3 wards are something that would be advantageous for us to take a look at them. Even those of us that have been in them numerous times, but maybe haven't been there for 3 or 4 years, just to see what new equipment, what other things may have changed. Ray,
So this isn't gonna be a half a day thing, we started, say, at 9 o'clock in the morning and finish whenever, would that be a suggestion? Whatever the agenda says?
Sure.
certainly, yeah, but
We'll make arrangements for lunch.
And a bus.
Yeah.
Where do we meet?
We'll get all those details ironed out.
probably meet here.
We can have that all figured out though
Yeah.
and send out.
So if we said 9 o'clock on the 9th,
We'll tentatively mark it in. If there's a number of us can't do it, we may have to change it, but. Okay, thank you.
very much.
Okay, and there's the calcium chloride dust control. So
Someone have that.
somebody doing the motion for that? Kelly, do you want to explain a little bit of background behind this motion?
Okay, last year our calcium was purchased through a co-op, I guess you call it. Like there's,
I do.
yeah, a group that goes together and buys it, gets it at a reduced cost, I guess you would say. So it went up from 0.176 to 0.186, and the majority of the, everyone in the group felt that that was something that they could handle, so we've all been asking the council to get approval so we can get on the schedule for the calcium, which usually takes place in May.
Okay. I have a motion moved by Seat, seconded by Ritzman Taninga, that the council of the Township of North Huron agree to award the dust control contract to Daily Dust Control to supply and apply the township's 2015 requirements at a cost of 0.186 cents per liter.
Delivered and applied.
Yeah. And further that the Director of Public Works has authorization to sign any necessary documentation. Is there questions? Bill?
Because the amount of this is 36,000, my question would be for you to Donna, does this meet with the purchasing policies, current purchasing policies? If this isn't being tendered or?
It's an actual,
It's being a negotiated purchase by us being part of that buying group.
Okay, so so you don't need a remember that motion to go past that if it's negotiated, because it doesn't say anything, but that's okay. That's fine.
They're part of the buying group, and the negotiation has already been done as part of a group, and the best price already tendered out, I guess, is that what you've
yeah,
already?
this is actually the second extension
Second
of it,
one.
of the tender, of the original tender that went out. And we had a decrease 2 years ago and then a slight increase this year.
And this is just for the 2015 year?
Yes.
Okay.
Ray?
So Kelly, dollar wise, I never figured out.
How much more is it
Yeah.
going to be?
Roughly.
I'd have to.
I can
figure that out. I'll have to answer it.
You're getting the same amount.
Well, because
More
we're
or
not doing
less.
Ring Road, we're doing.
But we keep turning chipping them.
That's right.
It's gonna be about $2,500.
Okay,
It's about $2,500.
$2,000. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion? Carried. And there's another motion Okay, thanks, James. Moved by Campbell and seconded by Hallahan, that the council of the township of North Huron approve the director of public works recommendation to purchase a used 2009 Ford diesel 1-ton plow dump truck from Fantastic Motors in Dory, and that the purchase price for the 2009 Ford diesel 1-ton plow dump truck is $29,500 plus taxes and license. And do you want to mention what was in the budget?
Yeah, I had 30,000 put in the budget for this particular unit to be replaced. We also bought 2 other pieces of equipment which came in at a little under, so we're definitely not over our number. That was budget.
Okay, any questions from council? All in favor of the motion? Carried. And the next one is replacement of overhead doors at the East Wawanosh work shed. Moved by Wadden and seconded by Wetzman Tenenga, that the council of the township of North Huron award the installation of 2 overhead doors for the township shed at 39498 Belgrave Road to JEM Polydor Door Company Limited in the amount of $4,928 per door plus applicable taxes, and further that JEM Polydor Door Company Limited is to remove the old inefficient doors. James.
They're poly, so that's.
It's all,
Yeah, it's pretty much all.
okay, good.
It'll match the one that's in there.
It's over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that I can say the doors that are being replaced, I believe, are 40 years old. So they have done their turn, and it's.
Could be heritage items.
Take them to the museum.
Drop one off at your place. You can put them in the yard.
Thanks.
Is more of, I guess, more of a question of just standard things. Are doors like this on all the municipal sheds? Like, are they somewhat standard, or because the sheds are all different sizes and all different size doors? Okay.
They're on different size doors.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thanks, Kelly. You did a good run of spending money there. All well worth it. Okay, moving to 6.4.5, utility department. That's the water monthly report. And is there questions on the report? Okay. Don?
I'd like to update you on the drilling that's going on live here. First day went great. Got into the bedrock and they cemented in the liner for the well, and they continued to drill. Anyway, they ran into some unstable formations they thought they're in bedrock, but then they drilled out of bedrock.
Sure.
So they ended up having to put another 6-inch liner inside the 8-inch to secure the well. And they're going to continue drilling tomorrow afternoon. But at any rate, that 6-inch liner was not part of the original quote, and will be an additional $18,000 for that, for the placement and grouting and all that, so unfortunately, we're over budget on that one already, but
It's additional how much?
18,000 for that. A lot of that is, it's not even so much the liner or the grout, but their machine is sitting there, and of course, we're paying for the machine to
sitting
sit there. Yes. So that's where the majority of that cost. And we're kind of at the point of no return there. Like, I mean, they yeah.
Do you go a little further, or do you start in another location?
Yes, I considered that too. The direction from the consultant was to continue on. This it should produce the amount of water that we're looking for. It's not ideal, but it can work. So we had looked at actually moving the hole to a completely different location. But it was, to do that was somewhere around the $40,000 mark to do that. So unfortunately, like, I mean, it's kind of a 1 in 1,000 thing that they run into this, like either the consultant and the drillers, they were very confident that the formations around here were predictable, but
Right.
How far are we down now, Don?
they're down 145 feet right now. The rain and bedrock about 100 feet, and they drilled into the bedrock about 10 feet, and then when they continued drilling, about another 15 or 20 feet into the bedrock to hit this unstable material there.
So what they anticipate, how deep they might be going, 300?
It'll be 300 maximum. We expect something in the 260, 270 range. They should be into some good water bearing conditions, just about that, 240, 275 should be.
So the 6 inch is going to be big enough if everything works out right, rather than the 8? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, well, and one of the things, I mean, I was kind of hoping for, not that it really matters, but 300 gallons a minute is what I was really shooting for. We really only needed 250, but I wanted a well that had the capacity that it's just a matter of upping the permit to take water if they would allow you. But obviously, we're going to be probably down into the 250 range, which is still okay. If both the other wells go down, that'll still be enough to supply water. Because right now we can only produce 15 liters a second, so it'll still work. It's just a long road to get there. And to do with that too, yes. So that permit to take water, it was originally for December 31st. It expired, so we've extended that, or had it extended to February 28th, just to give us lots of time in case. So that's the update on the live well.
Okay. Thanks, Don. I have a motion by Knott and Campbell that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accept the report of the Chief Operator as presented. Any questions? Trevor?
Dawn, the standard of care course, is that one that was going to be in Walkerton that's now in July 16th? That's what that is in your report?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's January 16th. And yeah, so if everybody could just let me know as soon as possible, it'll be Goderich, Central Huron, Huron East, and West Turnberry, and ourselves. So we've got more people looking to take it than we've got spots. So if there's anybody not able to go, let me know as soon as possible. And
Is my name done?
yeah, I believe I've got everybody.
Already down.
Everybody's 7 spots for 1 year.
Trevor?
So I guess I'm gonna ask the age-old question. $18,000 over budget on, I'm assuming capital, correct? Is, where are we in our capital budget? Where's the 18,000 coming from, I guess is my question.
That'll, yeah, we had budgeted 159,000. And so we won't be progressing as far into the construction of this as we first anticipated. I have to double check, but I think we're okay yet for that.
So the overall budget's okay, it's just this particular part of the project is over.
That's right, yeah.
Okay,
It's just, yeah, about the
that
quoted-
clarifies, thank you.
Okay. Bill,
Are we at the point we can talk about the unused well? At this point in this report?
Yeah, so that was, at this point, I just gave that to you as information purposes. We will have to see how this well progresses, because right now the unused well is actually within the 100-meter zone, the wellhead protection zone, the mandatory one. And so if everything goes okay with the well and we do get what we need, then that would be the time to address that. I mean, ultimately, it's an unused well, and no matter where it is best to be capped. But MOE they're reluctant to enforce that apparently, unless it poses a real risk to things. So anyway, that would, my suggestion would be to just wait and see if this well is a dud, and we have to move on. Then it will be definitely outside of the 300-meter, 100-meter wellhead protection zone, and reduced risk then.
Yeah. I don't know, I just, definitely, I think that if it as well comes in, then I think it's something that we have to pursue just because of our own potential liability with any contamination in that well. The only other thing I just wanted to say, and repeat, is that we look at we were talking here about abandoning the costs of having to closed up and us participating. I strongly advise that we don't offer to participate in any way other than to perhaps offer an opportunity for us to get it done and then put it on the tax bill. But I think if we turn around and say we're going to pay the cost of this well, this abandoned well, and cap it off, we're opening a can of worms where we're going to have other people going to show up on our doorstep going, well, how about you pay for mine too? Because and it's just, I think it opens a whole can of worms, and I don't think we want to go there.
that I think one of the things when we are moving towards having Sabo Bayfield, having their specialist on source water, doing a number of the things, and that I think that would be, that we would draw that person into the discussion as to whether the risk would require us to do stuff, and that I think we have to get that knowledge before we would say exactly what we might or might not do. That I would like to have that information first, and if that's a proper course, Don.
Yeah, I mean, first off, make sure the well is going to be suitable for us. And so that, I mean, if it's not, then that immediately puts it on, on definitely a lower risk for us. And the second thing is we haven't been able to really assess exactly what this well even is, like whether it's a dug or drilled or, so that would be another piece of the puzzle that we need to have an answer for before make a decision on it.
Okay, yeah,
But from a legal standpoint, the owner of the property is responsible for that well.
correct. Okay. The motion that I have from Naughton Campbell is Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accept the report of the chief operator as presented. All in favor? Carried. Okay, I have another motion from Seat and Lawden. That the council of the Township of North Huron direct staff to forward the newsletter to the Blythe residents from the chief officer. Don, do you want to?
Yeah, so the purpose of that letter was really to just have the residents kind of up to speed on kind of the happenings that's going on with the well, and that Mill Street hopefully is progressing, maybe starting next year if everything goes well. And then just to remind them, in January here, when we get the water bills, that the rates have gone up. So it's maybe fresh in their memory then.
Okay,
Courtesy thing.
any discussion on that motion? Trevor?
Other than that it should be operator, not
That's been
officer.
corrected.
Okay, good.
All in favor of the motion? Thank you. We've already talked about the unused well, so moving to 6.4.6, Director of Finance.
Okay, so the first report is just a general monthly update report to let you know what we've been working on this month. And with our two big projects this week, due by Friday, is the two applications, the OCIF for the new well and the SCF application for Mill Street. So Dawn, Kelly, and I are working on these all week to try to get these applications, not try to, but we'll have those applications filed by Friday. So that's our big goal for this week as part of that department update. Is there any other questions in the general update? Seeing none,
Go ahead.
I'll move on to the next item, which is the external audit services RFP results. So as I have kept council up to date, we haven't put our external audit services out for RFP for approximately 10 years. And so that was on the to-do list for this year. We've completed that exercise and we sent out 6 invitations plus it was posted on our website and on Merck's, which is an external bidding through the internet access avenue. So we were pleased. We ended up with six submissions that actually qualified. One was not received in time, and so it was not opened and not part of the evaluations. The evaluations were based on the criteria as outlined in the RFP. And as it turned out, that out of the 6 that were reviewed and returned with the proper qualifications, our existing audit firm of Bodden, Bender, and Seebach was the lowest actual submission. Very close to that was Takalo and Burt, which is from Godbridge. They also have an excellent reputation, along with as Bodden and Bender do as well. So we have had Bodden and Bender and Seebach since 2001 when we amalgamated. We haven't had any issues with their work over the years. And so I'm recommending as to council that we continue on for a 5-year term with Bodden and Bender, as the breakdown is outlined in the one table is the full submissions of all 6 return submissions, and then the breakdown by the township, and then the 2 BIAs with the HST for a total. So I just wanted to also note that the price for 2015 and 2016 are the same prices as what we have been paying in 14. So you wouldn't actually see an increase in the 2015 or 16 budget for the township part, but do believe that it's up $50 for the BIA. In 2014 this year, it was $750, and so it's going up to $800 for the 2 BIAs. So, like I said, I have all the submissions. If anybody was interested in having a look at them, you're more than welcome. But as I said, Julie also helped me with the review. So if you have any questions, my recommendation is before you.
Okay, that I have moved by Campbell and Hallahan that the council of the Township of North Huron award the proposal for external audit services to the firm of Godden, Bender and Seebach for a 5-year term from 2015 to 2019 as per terms and conditions outlined in the RFP document. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you. And moving on to item number 3, the report for the water and wastewater financial plan. Both the report and the actual draft copy of the plan was included in your agenda packages. Also, I had circulated the draft financial plan because of its length and the number of pages and the amount of reading. I had circulated that to all of you a week prior to you receiving it in the agenda package, just again, because everyone's so busy, and I thought I'd give you a bit of extra time to review it. This is a huge undertaking. I just wanted to thank Dawn for helping me with this project. It was something that we made the decision to go forward internally. We had varying prices up to $15,000 or more to do this plan for us. So I feel confident with the plan, and I'm happy with the content. If at the end of the discussion, council does approve the report, I would fancy it up a little bit with some color and such, some of those, last minute details. But for right now, I wanted to make sure that we concentrate on the plan content. So just to give you some brief topics that we need to discuss here. So the financial plan is a requirement with the water license renewal. So Don wouldn't be able to renew the licenses, and he is submitting those in for, I believe the due date is January 12th. That he has to have everything in to get a new water license. And so the financial plan has to go in 6 months prior to the initial license expiry. And as part of the whole water financial plan, as you know, we went through an extensive wastewater and water rate review study conducted by BM Ross, and the recommendations that they put forth in that report for a 5-year term were included in this financial plan as well. So again, so the requirements are that the financial plan must be approved by council. It's a requirement for the drinking water license. It must include a statement that the financial impacts have been considered, and it has to be for a minimum 6-year forecast. This is for 10. It must include all your financial positions for assets, liabilities, net debt, and non-financial assets, operations, revenue, expenses, annual surplus, and accumulated surplus, and your statement of cash flow. It has to have a statement regarding the replacement of lead service connections, and any financial plans that are applicable to 2 or more solely owned water drinking systems can be prepared as if they were for 1, and that is our case because we have both Blythe and Wingham, and we don't keep our goal has always been that we operate our water systems as a North Huron system, not one in each of the wards. So the financial plan reflects that as well. These plans have to be made available to the public upon request without charge, has to be posted on the internet, and notice of the availability of the plan has to be given to the public, and a copy of the plan has to go into the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So if you had a chance to look through the plan, it outlines the requirements that we were meeting and the all the permits to take water and the accreditation dates and those types of things. It refers to the approval authority, which is the Reg 45307. It talks about the financial sustainability of our water systems. It gives an extensive background of each of the details of our water systems and the supply and the number of hydrants, the water mains, all those types of things. It gives us our 10-year water capital plan, which you will see in the upcoming budgets. It talks about the replacement cost. As you know, in our asset management plan, the water and sewer replacement costs are valued at over 82 million. So all that information is in there. The information on the lead services, which Dawn helped me with. And then all the tangible capital asset statements. It takes into account the water rates, again, relating back to the study done by BM Ross this year. There's a copy of our new 2015 to 2019 rate schedule included in here. Our projected statement of financial position and the operations, which is actually our operating budget for both water and sewer for the 10 years and the cash flow. So I've gone through that very quickly. I understand that it's a lot of information. Dawn, do you have anything to add in regard to the whole plan or any of its content? This copy is checked. Anyway. So thanks, Don. So anyway, council, do you have any questions or comments in regard to the plan? Any further information that you would like before you consider making a motion to adopt this financial plan?
It's a very impressive document.
A lot of work.
Oh, I have a question. Would you have any idea how much this financial planning system adds to the workload in terms of dollars or time, or to what extent is that added to what we were normally doing? Do you have any idea on that?
It adds an enormous amount of workload on
Oh, well.
Like I really believe, I wasn't a big fan of planning per se, but like it really is a valuable document to really sit down and just, not just for the short term, but the long term, and just it puts a whole different perspective on things. So like, yes, it's a lot of work, but it really is to move things forward. And I think it's definitely imperative that we do it. And the other thing is too, the benefit of doing it in-house versus having somebody else. Like, I mean, it makes the local people think about their own assets, where somebody else does it, you know, a bit of that is, it's done for you, so it maybe doesn't mean the same thing. So
I just have one quick added question. In terms of the asset management deficit, the asset deficit that we have, is that going to be on top of this? I mean, we're not accounting for everything, are we, in terms of replacement and future costs, or are we?
Yeah,
we are.
This replacement cost of 82 million is just water and sewer, though,
Right,
of course,
right.
not the rest of our assets. So, and those numbers are like hitting a moving target. But one of the things that I think it's important, as Dawn is saying, is as we get better with developing these plans and getting better at using them, they become more valuable, and they give us, we need to plan longer, how we're going to get to where we want to be, and those types of things. So it's really good experience for us. few years ago when we started out with the piece that was all at historical cost. So that really, that was fine, it was a good starting point, but we need replacement costs. How are we going to plan for replacement, those types of things. So I think it's all, as we get better at using these types of documents, I think it's going to be more valuable for budgeting long term.
Yeah, thanks.
Trevor, comment, I like the fact that we do these types of reports in-house. And the reason is just exactly why Dawn said. It makes the people who work for the municipality invested in the assets that we have. But it also, it's very easy just for certain things like this to say, oh yeah, let's get a consultant, very easy. But it's easy to pay them a consultant to do this, but then you're not really invested in it. And I like the fact that we have staff, and we have excellent staff that invest some time that maybe is not always great time, but it's investment in the future of the municipality. And I think that's, from a standpoint for me, it's value add as opposed to not. So I thank Dawn and because it was, for me reading that, I would have thought that would have came from a consultant. That's how well it's written. So kudos to you guys.
Don is our consultant.
Definitely, very well written. And the one point that I will make is that 10 years, I think instead of being the minimum of 6, having that 10 years, understanding life cycle and stuff, it really is advantageous to us as a council to look at life cycle rather than, okay, it's till the next time we have to fill it out. It's useful information. Okay, and the motion I have from Vodman seat that the council of the Township of North Huron approve and adopt the Township of North Huron Water and Wastewater Financial number 090-3018 as presented. The water and wastewater systems are financially viable and the financial impacts have been considered as part of the plan. A copy of the plan will be submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, posted on the township website, and included with the application for the municipal drinking water license. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, both Don and Donna. Okay. Moving to Director of Recreation, the municipal alcohol policy that's been brought forward. Pat, do you want to make comments on how you followed up the new changes for alcohol and gaming?
Sure. In the report I provided, I just want to make sure everybody is clear that we're not asking that it be adopted as bylaw tonight, that it does need to be reviewed and adopted as bylaw. And we're recommending that council have an opportunity to review the policy and bring this forward on January 5th. So I guess that's not is that a motion that we are making tonight, or that's a motion? Okay. Yeah, so the policy is due to be reviewed by our township, and in 2012, some of the councillors in this room and myself have been busy reviewing all of the changes that the Alcohol and Gaming Commission brought forward in 2012. And I want to thank the police chief, as well as Brock Bodden, councillor, for sitting on a subcommittee with myself to go through the old policy and really pull out what needed to be changed. And that is the new policy that is before you. The key changes I made in 5 bullets in the report, and I think that the biggest one that has really been pushed down upon us from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission is in relation to stag and does, and that they are no longer permitted under a private special occasions permit which is sort of the traditional way they've been operating for years and years. And in order to operate one under a private SOP requires a lot of diligence and puts a lot of risk on the facility operator, being the township, to host that event. So it's our recommendation that we no longer allow them to operate under special occasions permit, that instead they have an opportunity to bring in somebody with a licensed, a liquor license under a caterer's endorsement to operate. And that is how they've been operating for the last few months in North Huron and doing quite well at it. So that's what this clearly outlines in the new policy. I think there's a number of changes to the best practices as well as the limits of liability for insurance that we're recommending in the policy. So I don't know if there's any specific questions tonight, but my office is open over the next few weeks to take your questions and queries with respect to this policy. If there's anyone in the public that has questions about this, of course, we can flush those changes out and bring it back to council in its final form. But that's where we're at with the municipal alcohol policy.
Brock?
I'm really impressed with the work that Pat has done on this, and after it left our committee's hands, he's obviously talked to an awful lot of people around the province, and it's greatly enriched since I last saw it. It seems to me that this is a good example of one of the issues that needs to have public input. I think it's going to be a controversial project. Even though I think it's perfect as it is, other people may have questions or want clarification. There'll be a lot of surprises for a lot of people because I saw it myself. And I think that for that reason, when we do consider the bylaw, we do not approve first, second, and third right off the bat. I think we need, in this case, to have approval of the first reading and carry on to the next month, next meeting, possibly approving the next two readings or possibly even taking it further if there's a great interest and many questions coming from the public. I think this is showing our openness and transparency, which I think has been somewhat hidden by the fact that we nearly always pass bylaws first, second, and third. This is one that I think we can't do. We need to have ourselves open to discussion and clarification. Not this, that necessarily that it will be changed at all, because I think it's perfect now, but there may be some things that we didn't notice or whatever, and we should approach it that way when we look at the bylaw.
James?
Just to follow up from Councillor Bodden, is this something that we should advertise that we are doing so that some of these specialty groups know that we have come up with a new policy? Otherwise, how will the people know that we have done this, other than to say we've done it?
Press.
The press.
We're only at the draft stage, of course.
I know that, but I'm just, that's my question. Is that we get the other.
Trevor?
So one of the things though, as being part of social groups, this is not something that is new. A lot of the changes that are here have been directed by alcohol gaming. So we're not making these aren't new.
I realize that.
And a lot of these changes have been directed via that avenue. Alcohol gaming has made them public knowledge. And I think Pat's given those groups who have had past events full opportunity to provide feedback on how they see the policy and how it works for them. It may not work for them all that well, but I think from a standpoint of insurance and risk assessment, alcohol gaming is assessing what the risks are for each municipality. I think that's what really this is based on. We're not making new rules. Alcohol gaming just making us enforce them.
And I would say that the meetings that Pat had with having Brian Johnson from Alcohol and Gaming, and the number of ones that were wanting to have buck and does that were invited to those meetings, and having provincial legislation that we were bringing forward, that these were the changes, and thanks to Pat for the work that she did on it. I think a lot of the groups and many of the ones that are wanting to do buck and does understand that there were the major changes in provincial legislation took place in 2012. And this is, in my estimation, just proper follow-up as to how we react as a municipality to those laws. Trevor, did you have further comment?
Yeah, I just, from the conversations we had with Brian at homecoming, this has taken full route of what we found things in homecoming, like we didn't realize we had to abide by the municipal smoking bylaw. The count, like nobody knows. Like when you're talking about alcohol, you think alcohol only, but apparently it has to be coordinated. So this incorporates all of that stuff that we learned. So it's
All
nice.
sins, all
But
sins.
it's nice the fact that we learned all that stuff by having a municipal or the alcohol inspector around, so we can incorporate those things into our bylaw to make sure that we're fully encompassing.
Bill?
I just want to say, I don't know if we have to go crazy about advertising, but I do think it would be nice if perhaps Pat had a list of those groups or individuals that you had the discussions with, and that they got a notification that the bylaw is going to be put forward, and just they're going to come and see the result of their input. And if they have any input after that, once we bring it forward, before we go to the final read. So I don't know if you've got a list of those that you are off the top of your head. And I'm thinking the bigger groups, the ones that do things on a regular basis, that are going to be affected by this.
Yeah, I think I definitely have that list. I don't have a list of all the public at large that necessarily attended that meeting.
No.
I've had the crying brides through my office. They've been married since.
Yeah, I
but,
don't think we're too worried about that.
No, but I do
Major
think I could definitely this week put a letter or email together out to the Lions, the Legions, the groups that the Muskrat Festival, the groups that typically annually come to us with questions about service of alcohol.
Those are the ones I'm
Yeah,
referring to.
that's-
I think it would just be a good thing to say, here, this is the result of your inputs now coming forward. So come with your last kick to cap, so to speak.
Right.
So, do you see any changes then, that there hasn't already been here? I'm talking from the Kinsman or from the Lions Club or anything. There's no thing, I read through this, but there's really no changes from before, is what you're saying, really. Or a lot of the changes, should I say, or what? I'm trying to.
There are definitely changes when I put those bullets together from the previous policy. If you hold the two policies up side by side, they are different. But the differences are not necessarily changes that have not already transpired over the years through the Alcohol and Gaming Commission's changes in the service of alcohol laws. So I don't think that there are any surprises in this policy. The policy is catching up to what has already been put upon us, and the best practices that we have discovered through those changes and started to practice already in this municipality, and now the policy is catching up to make sure that we have a clear policy if anybody thinks about how do we operate. So our policy is catching up with our practices, and some of our practices will change slightly, but because they'll be official now. We'll be able to say, we don't do this anymore, and we do that now. Does that make it easier?
It does. I wonder, like, how does it affect the Columbus Center down here, for instance? Can if they're up to speed on everything now, there won't be any changes to them.
To their operations, there will be no changes. They've already implemented the changes. When the liquor laws changed, they had to change under their license.
Yeah, so there shouldn't be problems with it.
No, there really won't be. I think that we've had sort of the Band-Aid ripped off in 2012 and 2013 when we suddenly had to make changes. And now it was just the work through the committee and getting feedback to get how that policy will be reflected by North Huron in our wording. But I've had two comments from councillors. I'd like direction. One was a letter, one was advertising. If I could just get clarity on what council would prefer to help inform groups.
A letter would be fine.
Should be posted on the, maybe just a special posting on the website. And a copy of the draft on there as well. They can refer to.
Okay, moved by Knott and seconded by Hallahan, that the North Huron Council agree to review the attached revised municipal alcohol policy with the objective to adopt this policy as bylaw at the January 5th, 2015 council meeting. And further, that at that time, North Huron Council rescind the previous municipal alcohol policy bylaw number 33, 2007. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Pat. Okay. Species at risk signage. Who wants to talk for that?
I think there's a motion that we would like council to consider to put up a sign to notify anyone in Wingham on the trail that we do have to at-risk species and that it is illegal to harm them. And this is a request coming from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, Canada. And I just want council's direction on this.
Well, I now have moved by C and seconded by Ritzman Taninga that the council of the Township of North Huron agreed to support the request from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, Canada, to erect one identified aquatic species at risk, more specifically, 2 freshwater mussels that are at risk: the rainbow mussel and the wavy rayed lamp mussel. And further that, the sign would be installed at the Department of Fisheries and Ocean Canada's expense. And further that, the signage will be selected by the Township of North Huron along the Wingham Community Trail. And I will add that for the wavy rayed lamp mussel, it's pretty well any place along the Maitland River that it is being looked for. Basically, it's at risk because there isn't many of them. So that I think this is a fairly common sense following through with Fisheries and Oceans. And
I just wanted to point out that there's just a typo, I believe. In the last sentence, it says, and further that, it should be, the site will be selected by the township, not the signage. The signage is provided by the Ocean Fisheries. The site will be selected by the township.
thank you, Pat.
No problem.
All in favor? Carried. Moving to 6.4.8, Fire Department of North Huron, staff report, the monthly update. Is there any questions on that? Okay, moving to the second point, mutual fire aid agreement with the Kincardine Fire Department. Okay.
It's supposed to, we have that resolution over there.
No, this is, I have one for the EST.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Moved by Knott, or no, moved by Hallahan and seconded by Knott, that the council of the Township of North Huron agree with agree to enter into a mutual fire aid agreement with the municipality of Kincardine and the Kincardine Fire Department. And further that, a mutual fire aid agreement be prepared for the Council of the Township of North Huron's January 5th, 2015 council meeting, authorizing the Reeve clerk to sign the agreement with the municipality of Kincardine. Discussion? All in favor?
Disaster exercise.
That's this one. And point 3, the CEMC annual disaster exercise, key findings and proposed actions. That the Council of the Township of North Huron direct the Emergency Management Coordinator, David Sparling, to proceed with the proposed actions to the key findings that resulted from the annual disaster exercise held on December 1st, 2014. And further that the Emergency Management Coordinator comply with the regulations with any notification to applicable ministries. And I have that moved by Bodden and C. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
We're looking for the exchange of apparatus for training.
There's something right there.
Very good.
There's a resolution up there.
What's that one here? What's that one? Just give it. Just give it.
Oh,
Yep, that's it.
So I read this one now. By Naught and Campbell, that whereas the Emergency Services Training Center, ESTC, accommodates several local area fire departments with emergency training at a cost to local or area fire departments. And whereas the Kincardine Fire Department has requested to use the ESTC for approximately 4 days of training at a cost to the Kincardine Fire Department of approximately $1,250 a day, totaling $5,000. And whereas the ESTC requires a replacement for the 1995 pumper due to operational inadequacies, and whereas the Kincardine Fire Department has offered a 1988 pumper that is in good operational condition as a trade for 4 days of training they require at the ESTC. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of North Huron agree to the trade of a 1988 pumper from the Kincardine Fire Department for 4 days of training at the ESTC. And further that an agreement be prepared by the Kincardine Fire Department for the Township of North Huron Council's consideration at the January 19th, 2015 council meeting. I think a number of us seen the truck that is possibly being traded, and it's being traded for use of the fire grounds. It has nothing to do with the cost of the programming. Am I correct, David? Discussion? Bill?
I just make a comment to those who weren't, that Jim and Reed Vincent, we saw the vehicle today. It's in much better condition than the current vehicle they're using. So I personally just think it was a good trade. you know, when we can do that, it saves us a lot of hassle in other areas, so.
That's good. Anything else? All those in favor? Carried. Yeah. And another motion from Bauden and Retzma-Taninga that the council of the Township of North Huron approve the request from David Sparling, the fire chief, Fire Department of North Huron, to complete the required modifications to the Emergency Services Training Center, ESTC, in the amount of $9,000 from the 2015 budget to meet the approval for marine fire training by Transport Canada. Jim.
Are we sure these guys are coming after we put the money into it?
Well, the thing I like about this is you'll notice in it, it talks about the ability to do winter training. And what this comes down to is that if you want to do maritime fire training, it has to be in January, February, and March, because that's when the ships are off the lakes. If the maritime stuff did not come, this still prepares our facility so that when the City of London asked us if they could train in December, we said no, because we can't do that. With these modifications, if we never got any maritime fire business whatsoever, it does allow us to run in the wintertime, because what this really does is it puts grates throughout the structure in the grounds, which eliminates the slips and falls, which is why we currently don't run in the wintertime. Because obviously if you're doing fire training, you're using water, and it's -5, the water becomes ice. This basically grates the entire building and the immediate area around it. So if you're doing fire training with water, it's all below the grates and eliminates the slips and falls that are currently our concern.
And by moving forward with this, a request could go in to Transport Canada for inspection and approval.
Yes.
Am I putting it correctly?
No, that is correct. What happens is that maritime fire training is federally regulated. So here's talk with the Ontario Fire College and stuff like that for municipal fire, but for maritime fire, it's a federally regulated program. As such, your facility, much as for the municipal stuff, the Ontario Fire Marshal comes out and make sure your facility's good. For maritime programs, Transport Canada has to come and verify your facility meets the requirements. Our intention is to complete this so that as soon as we get through the Christmas break, we can get Transport Canada facility auditors to come and check our facility. They might want to come and say, you need to do this and this, but from what we've been getting from outside experts, our facility is significantly larger and more complete than any other facility in Canada. And it's just this last little sort of bit of fine tuning that would require us to meet for approval. But until we do this, we can't call them because we're not there.
Bill?
Through something, Dave, I guess I'd like to ask, how far along are we with those fire trainers, the Marine Fire Training Group? Are they at the point where they would even give us a letter of intent to say that if we do complete this project, that they will then come and run courses at our facility? Because I don't want to see us spend more money again and end up in the same position we are with Georgian College.
Well, the reality of this is that this is the only facility that's kind in central Washington, Ontario. There's one in Quebec, but it's French only. So I can certainly get a letter of intent, and that's not a difficult one. The practical reality is that they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, from my own perspective, I would feel more comfortable in this if we had a letter of intent, a very solid letter of intent. And in addition, that letter of intent would contain some sort of projection of the revenues or the courses that would be run so that we can balance the revenues anticipated against our actual expenditures. Because what you're saying is we can put this $9,000 in, yet when Transport Canada comes, they may tell us we have to do additional. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to know that we've got something. And I'm not asking for 100% guarantee, because I know it's probably impossible at this stage, but at least to have a good comfort level that these people are serious about coming if we proceed to spend more money.
On an anecdotal basis, I can vouch for the fact that they're extremely serious. On a documented basis, it'd be no problem for me to get a letter of intent. On a pure dollars basis, there comes a point, and this is where it leads to the next part of the motions. The projected economic impact of this program is the neighborhood of $4 million a year to the local economy. The dollars that back all it up and everything else get to the point where you need a real business plan. And I would agree with you that before we get too far down the tracks, we need to do a real business plan. Because I don't like getting into stuff without sort of a roadmap, and that includes operational stuff as well as the monetary side of things. On the $9,000 part of it, I would go back to my point. 9,000 is probably in the high end of what we need to do, but I don't want to have a motion for 7,000 if I'm at 7,200. This money for our facility also takes us beyond the maritime stuff, though, where we can rent it out to people in the longer season. So while it's labeled as a maritime project, a lot of this work actually extends just to our core existing business.
You're gonna get a letter. We do that?
And in being down there this afternoon and talking to one of firefighters from Toronto that teaches in the course the designs and sketches that he had and laid out. We do have the containers and the configurations that are superior to most other fire grounds that he knows. He said ours are with slight adaptation as to certain things, as to locations that Transport Canada might want, that we have, I'll say the big part of the structures all in place and a lot more than anybody else has. And that it would really be a boon if they could provide the maritime instruction in our facility. So that, I'll leave it at that. I've read the motion. Is there more discussion? All in favor of the motion? Okay. Is there a motion on grant? Okay, point 6, County of Huron grant funding application for the ESTC from Knott and Hallahan. That the Council of the Township of North Huron agree the Emergency Services Training Center has the potential to be a viable service to the emergency responders in Huron County, neighboring municipalities and counties, as well as the Ontario Fire Academy, to name a few. And further, that with the funding approval from the County of Huron, the Emergency Services Training Center can move forward with the first steps to being a sustainable facility in the Township of North Huron by completing a business plan, and further that the success of the Emergency Services Training Center will be shared economically with local and area businesses. And therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of North Huron agree to support the grant funding application for the Emergency Services Training Center Sustainable Futures Funding. And David Sparlin, Fire Chief, Fire Department of North Huron. Any discussion? Bill.
My little comment goes back to the letter of intent from them would be a very good thing to attach to that grant application.
Oh, absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
that's
And on the other side of the coin, the application is exactly what you're talking about, where if we've got a training center that's almost choking on opportunity, and we want to make sure that we have a proper business plan so that if you get too much good stuff going on or too many balls in the air, sometimes you wind up catching none of them. And we want to make sure we catch these balls, but make sure we also do it in a fiscally responsible and doable manner.
Okay, anything further? All in favor of the motion? Carried.
If I could, just as a 20-second add-on, as members of council, you are all deemed to be part of the emergency management committee for the municipality of North Huron. This would be our emergency plan. You are entitled to, if you wish, have a copy of this and completely review it. I can make it available. As you can see, there are a number of Post-its here for things that'll be fine-tuning. But if at any point you wish to review this or have a look, let me know, and I'd be happy to get you a copy because you are full.
Good morning.
You've seen our apartment.
Okay. So there's no unfinished business. No new business. Although we've taken quite a few actions tonight to make up for how few that we took on the inaugural. Moving to point 9, council information. Okay, from Seat and Wadden, that the council of the township of North Huron agree that the correspondence be ordered, read, and filed. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, we need somebody to move. There. Thank you. Okay, point 10, correspondence. Moved by Campbell and Hallahan that the council of the township of North Huron agreed that correspondence be ordered, read, and filed. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving to committee reports, 11.1, Blythe BIA. It's fairly self-explanatory. Bill?
Yeah. Good times.
He'll answer questions if there is any. Moving to 12, bylaws. Bylaw number 88, 2014, being a bylaw to amend Schedule B and Schedule C of bylaw number 54, 2007, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program for the township of North Huron. Okay. And motion from Seat and Ritzma Taninga that it be read the first and second time. Is there questions? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Okay. And from Knott and Campbell, that bylaw number 88, 2014, being a bylaw to amend Schedule B and C of the bylaw number 54, 2007, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program for the township of North Huron, be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve and the clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation and be engrossed in the bylaw book. All in favor? Carried. Moving to council reports and inquiries. Looks, oh,
I have actually one, there was something brought up by previously Councillor McGowan about Highland Drive in Wingham. It tends to be in the summer months. It tends to be very dangerous from a parking standpoint. There's more vehicles on the roads than there is in their driveways for fire protection, that sort of thing. The direction from council at that time was for Councillor McGowan to go back to the ratepayers on that road and get a survey done. I'm going to say that survey probably did not happen. It was not related to me anyways. And some ratepayers have said that they have never heard of asked for a survey. The concern I have with asking ratepayers within a road for a survey for a change of a bylaw is if they're the ones parking on the road, they ain't gonna change the bylaw, no matter what we ask them. So from a standpoint of what I've said to some ratepayers is that I think we need to get some direction on some pictures from them, some hard proof evidence that there is a concern about traffic and fire protection and those types of things, and bring them and let those be vetted through Public Works and David as a fire chief to kind of come back to us to say, what is the right way? What is the right direction in what we do? I don't think giving ratepayers the option is the right way to go. I think nothing will get changed.
Bill,
I've been through a similar situation in another township, and there were parking problems on the street. Although you're not going to necessarily take their word for exactly what they want, because obviously everybody in the street voted you right, highly in favor of no, we like parking the way it is. There was a compromise made based on the input from residents. So I think it's always valuable to get their input. You may be surprised with the results you get from the survey. There may be a majority in favor of changes, but I think you should invite their input anyway. And it would be taken into account at some point in time. May not necessarily come out the way they want, but at least you've asked for their input. So my suggestion is that you would proceed that.
and my take on the situation with parking on both sides of the street, there wasn't enough room left for all emergency vehicles to go down the street. Am I correct in the recollection on that? And that we may have to ask the leading question, would they want parking only on one side of the street to allow the emergency vehicles to be able to pass through at any time that they needed to? Bill, is that a question?
Well, I'm just going to, yes, because what we ended up, the compromise we made was alternate parking. So, odds and evens. And that was how we resolved the situation, because it was exactly the same kind of scenario you had here. The street was too narrow, especially in the winter for service vehicles to pass through.
I guess I'm looking for some direction on what I tell ratepayers on that street. Because when I go to door to door to those ratepayers, and they're telling me if I'm asked for a survey, that I just don't know what to, like, I can't tell them I'm gonna do something and I can't do it. So what do I tell them?
First and foremost, if they're asking you for something that basically we need it in writing, verbal is too easy to walk away from. If we have it in writing or a signed request for us to do some kind of a survey, or that we need names to back up the request for us to do something.
Okay, that's what I'll tell her right there.
That when we have a person's name on a request to us, we can go ahead and work on that. We're gun shy of a verbal request, and you work on it, and then you get shot in the foot over it because they don't like what you do in the end.
That's fine, I just wanna know what the direction I'm supposed to tell them, so that's what I'll tell them.
That we want a request, and that we prefer it in writing, then we can put staff time into working on the request. Right.
Another comment. I think if we're going to do a survey, we need to do it properly. I think we should have a methodology ready to do that kind of survey. We're going to go from this end of the street to that end of the street and so on. How are we going to process the results? An informal process is open to too many criticisms and bias, I think. And the other thing is, I think the fire service folks and probably the Wingham Police should also be involved in providing feedback to the process.
Agreed. And that the more detailed somebody's request to us is with methodology as to how to possibly proceed, that gives us something else to work with as well, Trevor.
Yeah.
Okay. CAO's report.
I don't have anything tonight.
Public gallery questions or comments? Joe?
I think that David and his crew at the EST deserves a lot of credit. We're worrying about $9,000 or $10,000. We'll get that back, and people all across Canada still don't know where Blythe is, and when they come, we'll get that back in all our businesses and stuff and combinations and whatever. I think it's great. I think the more we can get out there, the better. It's really helping North Huron a lot.
Thank you. Danny?
I was gonna ask a question, but I don't seem to have the proper form here. No, I'm good, thanks.
Big buildup for them.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. That we will be having in-camera session, but I want to let the press and gallery know that after the closed session, that there will be a press release, and it can be mailed to the media if they want. I hope it isn't too long in camera. It should go fairly quickly, but asking for this motion from Bauden and Ritzman-Taninga that we go in camera, deal with personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and labor relations and employee negotiations. And that's Bauden and Ritzman-Taninga. All in favor? Carried. A short recess.